Humans have had countless wars and conflicts, but only 4 truly devastating ones. Out of those 4, 2 occurred pre-space flight. They call them the World Wars, despite the fact the only world involved was their own. While the first 2 of the major human wars were only a couple of decades apart, the other 2 occurred far later. By 2243, they had colonized much of space via massive space stations across the solar system, with 17 colonies across Luna, and 2 small research stations on the neighboring planet, Mars. That same year, 36 space stations declared themselves the Union of Space-Dwelling Peoples and fought for independence from their Terran governments. The resulting war caused a total of 90 million approximate deaths on both sides. The USDP was declared the first independent nation outside of any planet or moon, and a peace treaty was signed between stations and planet. This conflict was later regarded as Sol War I, lasting 9 years. Marking this new governmental entity's existence, many nations on Terra changed. Those in alliances with one another joined together, creating the Nordic Union, the renewed Roman Empire, India Supreme, and the Commonwealth of Australia and Antarctica. Simultaneously, some larger nations crumbled due to the massive death toll and expenses from the war. Siberia became an independent nation, taking all of Asian Russia with it, giving a weakened Russia little choice when the NU asked them to join a few years later. The United States of America and Canada, a union of both great North American behemoths, collapsed, entering a chaotic state of near constant warring for resources and land. 92 years later, the Terran nations and the USDP had colonized much more of the solar system, using seed stations, truly gargantuan space stations that were deployed above moons or planets as pre-built cities in the sky, equipped with all the necessary gear and genetically designed plant life and animals for terraforming in the long term. Mars saw the largest amount of these deployed, but moons Luna and Titan, along with the planet Venus, saw around a dozen used as well. The total solar system had by now reached a population of 13 billion humans. As is with humans, these remarkable advances in not only space-dwelling technology, but also terraforming, caused a great deal of conflicts regarding potentially lucrative celestial bodies, eventually leading to the SW2, where colonies, space stations, and Terran nations themselves all partook in the war. Genetic technology was heavily used within this war, with many abominations created only for war seeing both their creation and their extinction within the 17-year-long war. During the halfway point of the war, a genetic mutation bomb, also nicknamed the DNA-Tom bomb, was used upon Terra, leaving the human homeworld with hundreds of thousands of terrible beasts to fend off, cutting a large amount of their forces out of the war. That was the time we were born. The common northern raven had been affected by this genetic attack in a way that was different from the others. The changes were subtle compared to many, though of course many mutations were even more hidden than our own. We became larger, gained an opposable toe on each foot, became better mimics, and became vastly more intelligent. We had gained sentience. That year, 2351, we were born. That year we were blessed and burdened with sapience, able to look upon our inadvertent creators with despair. We saw the horrors that war was. After all, we had been born out of it, and we vowed to never inflict that kind of harm upon one another. Of course, we kept ourselves hidden from humanity, as we feared those bloodthirsty monsters would kill us like they had killed each other. We used the technology they disregarded while they slew, and surprisingly quickly, we had the same technology as them. We made farmland hidden from satellites and space stations. We made medicine, able to treat the mutated viruses and bacterial infections. We made thoughts. Thoughts of math. Thoughts of biology. Thoughts of physics. Thoughts of philosophy. Thoughts of thoughts. We used human knowledge, far more vast in age and information, as our boost, and with it we made society. Once the humans had ended the fighting, we still remained hidden. We kept it that way for 3 more decades. Eventually, we made contact. We feared our existence was at risk. So much of the 30 years we spent hidden, we prepared ourselves for bloodshed. It wasn't unreasonable to assume such, as a total of 215 million humans perished in that war that caused us. However, we weren't greeted with guns and bombs. We were greeted with happiness and friendship. We, the new sentients of Terra, became known scientifically as Corvus sapiens, but more commonly as Greater Ravens. Sometimes that was shortened to Graven. As humans had similarly dark naming conventions with our Corvid relatives, the name Graven stuck, consequently causing a group of Gravens to be called a graveyard. The humans, now greeted with a fellow intelligence, from their own world no less, got their act together. Mostly. The Terran Alliance of Nations was officially born in the year 2361, and after that, no more massive wars were waged by the humans, and we lived in relative peace. Occasional conflict popped up, but we always ended them quickly, without large loss of life. Terran kind looked to the stars beyond their own, with cautious hope in their eyes.